So today I'll be talking about why I took a gap year and the reasons for that. So the first half will be mainly about the reason for taking gap year, and then the second half will be some HSC tips. So I'm Prema Majumder. I graduated from Sydney Girls High School last year, and right now I'm on a gap year. I'm also a maths tutor at Matrix, so if you see me around, feel free to ask questions. And I'm hoping to get into medicine at a university in New South Wales, and this is my main reason for taking a gap year. So the future. When we're in senior school, we're confronted with all these different options, and we're forced to think about what do we want to do after we finish the HSC. There are so many different options. The UWAC guide is so thick. When you get that book, you'll realise there are so many different things that you could possibly do in this world. For me, I narrowed it down by thinking about what kind of things I liked and where I'd see myself in about 5-10 years. So I like science subjects, and so I narrowed down the courses to engineering, medicine, optometry, dentistry, or advanced science. And for me, when I thought about it, I saw myself studying medicine and becoming a doctor in about 10 years. That's what I envisioned myself to be. So once I decided that I wanted to study medicine, I had to think about how am I going to get into medicine. So there are a number of ways of getting into medicine. The first one is undergraduate medicine, direct entry. And what I mean by that is that you study medicine straight after finishing the HSC. To get into medicine through this path, you need a high ATAR, UMAT and interview combination. And it's also the fastest way. It's the fastest way, but getting that high combination is not necessarily the easiest way. The next way is postgraduate medicine. So you have to get a good university marks in your undergraduate degree, and then you sit a test called GAMSAT. GAMSAT is the postgraduate version of UMAT. It's a 6-hour exam, and it's a bit different to the UMAT in that there are written components, while UMAT is all multiple choice. And so after you finish your undergraduate degree, you sit the GAMSAT and you can get into medicine to study as your postgraduate degree. And the third way is getting into medicine, undergraduate medicine, after taking a gap year. And what I haven't written here is this is kind of similar to studying undergraduate medicine after transferring from studying an undergraduate degree. So say, for example, you study law for a year, and then you can transfer into medicine after doing that. So this is the path that I'm taking. So what is a gap year? Essentially, a gap year is a year for you to do whatever you want, which sounds a bit vague, but it's also very exciting. So once you apply in Year 12 to UWAC, you get an offer in January, and you can choose to defer that offer. And what I mean by deferring an offer is you basically tell the universities, hold on to this course that I got into for about 6 months or 12 months, depending on the course, and I'll come back to you after a year and I'll let you know whether I want to take this offer further. So for me, I got optometry at UNSW. I contacted UNSW and I told them I want to defer this for 12 months, and at the end of 12 months, I'll let you know if I'm going to do this. So obviously I didn't actually call them up. There are options on UNSW that, there's a button to accept, defer, or decline. So I pressed defer. So some university offers only let you take 12 years off, while others let you take 6 months off. My optometry course let me take 12 months off, and that's what I wanted to take off, so that was good. A gap year is also a year to follow your dreams, in a sense. You can travel, you can volunteer, you can do whatever you wanted to do that you couldn't do in high school. So this is more on the fun side, and it's probably the best part of gap year as well. So why I took a gap year. So I'll explain my situation. My goal was to study medicine. I'm pretty keen on studying medicine, but my limitation was a poor UMAT. I didn't do so well in my UMAT. And like I said, to get into the direct entry, you need a high UMAT, interview, and ATAR combination. However, I received an offer into the Bachelor of Medical Science MBBS Provisional Entry for School Leavers course at Griffith University. Griffith University is a university in Queensland. The only requirement for this program is a high ATAR. So with this program, you study the Bachelor of Medical Science accelerated course for 2 years. If you maintain a GPA of 5, you then progress straight into the MBBS program. So so that you don't have to sit GAMSAT or you don't have to sit UMAT. All you have to do is maintain your GPA of 5, which is about a credit average. And if you're a student who got this offer, you already you have a high ATAR, and that means you are capable of maintaining a GPA of 5. So that's why a lot of people consider this option as, oh, you know, it's a medicine option. And another offer I received, like I said, was optometry at UNSW. So with these 2 offers, what I did, I deferred them, I put them on hold, and I'm taking a gap year, and I'll let them know at the end of the year whether I want to take these offers up. However, I love Sydney, my family, friends are here, I don't want to leave, which is why I thought, why not give medicine at a university at New South Wales another shot. I'll just take the time to explain the difference between taking a gap year or transferring after studying a year or 2 at in an undergraduate degree. So the difference is probably ATAR and your chances of getting into medicine. If you have a relatively high ATAR, you have a greater chance of getting into medicine if you take a gap year. So say take UNSW medicine, for example. Their criteria to get into medicine is 1/3 ATAR, 1/3 an academic component, 1/3 UMAT, and 1/3 interview. The academic component, if you take a gap year, comes entirely from your ATAR. However, if you study a year or 2 in a university, so say you studied engineering or advanced science, the academic component comes half from your university marks and half from your ATAR. So the reason I say that just taking a gap year if you have a high ATAR gives you a greater chance is because getting really high university marks is not as easy as getting a high ATAR. So that taking the 1 year of university and then transferring, those uni marks essentially dilute your ATAR and give you a lower chance of getting into medicine because you have a lower combination because of that academic component that has been diluted. It's a bit confusing. If you want to read about it more, it's up on, I wrote an article on the Matrix blog, so you can look it up there. There's the same explanation there, but in writing form. So that's why I took the gap year and I didn't go into a university course and transfer afterwards. So pros and cons of taking a gap year. Like I said, so with a good ATAR, it's the best possible chance, it gives you the best possible chance to get into medicine. It's basically like me graduating just from year 12 and trying again, but this time I have a whole year to do my UMAT, or 6 months to do my UMAT. So unlike your friends who might go into a university course and transfer, they have to focus on getting high university marks and getting a high UMAT. However, if you take a gap year, your only focus is getting a high UMAT. You have 6 months because the UMAT is in July, you have 6 months to focus on making sure your UMAT, you perform well in the UMAT. So that extra time and less distractions works in your favour as well. The gap year is also a very eye-opening experience. I've had, it's April now, so I've been in my gap year for a few months, and if I was to start university tomorrow, I think I'd still be that extra step ahead of the other students who are in university in my year. Because the gap year, when you have so much time to yourself, it forces you to mature really fast and be independent. You don't want to waste your time, you don't want to just sit at home all day. So for me, I was forced to take responsibility, get myself a job, get involved in activities, participate in a lot of activities, and that's just been a wonderful experience. I think I'll go into medicine having this whole year of experience and maturity that a lot of other students who went straight into medicine won't have. And university students, and my friends who are in university now, they say that gap year students have this new focus because they've had their year of exploring what they wanted, and now they're able to focus purely on their career and making sure they get where they want to. Speaking to other past gap year students, they tell me there's a lot of time for self-reflection, and I can confirm this. You're on the train, you're wherever you're going, you're usually by yourself, so you have so much time to just sit there and think about what am I doing with my life. And the great thing about this is that you realize why you really want to study the course that you want to. If you're willing to take a whole year and dedicate that whole year towards getting into a particular course, so for me, medicine, you realize that this is definitely what you want to do. So these are the pros on taking a gap year, and the cons. So it does push back your studies by a year. This year obviously though, in the grand scheme of things, if you're following the path that you want to, you're studying what you want to, and you're getting into a career path that you're passionate about, this 1 year is not going to make, or is not going to be that significant. Say for example, I'm a doctor when I'm 35, hopefully. I won't look back on this year and be like, oh wow, I wasted a year, or this year wasn't worth it, because this is a year that got me to study the course that I really wanted to study. So this is a year that you look back on with a lot of memories and experience, but it'll be a year that helped you get into the course. So it's not pushing back your year, but rather helping it. A lot of people say there's a possibility of falling out of touch with your study habits. Yes, if you're sitting at home with a pack of Doritos, watching TV, watching The Simpsons all day, you might just fall out of touch with your studies. But if you take initiative and get involved, do things, participate in activities, join a club, you're not going to get out of the habit of moving around and studying and things like that. So what do you do in a gap year, or rather what am I doing in a gap year? Everyone has a different gap year experience, obviously, because you have so much time, you have so many options. So for me, for the most part, I'm working as a maths tutor at Matrix, and that's been a lot of fun and very rewarding, talking to all the students and giving them advice. I'm trying to lead a healthy lifestyle. During the HSC, my parents would very kindly cut up pieces of fruit and deliver them to me while I was studying, but obviously I don't have that luxury anymore. So now I'm forced to make sure that I'm eating healthy, exercising healthy. It's very easy to not do that, but during my gap year, my goal is to make sure I get my health on track, because obviously, especially because I'm going to study medicine, hopefully, health is very important. And of course, you might study for the purposes of my gap year. I'm also on a mission to get my Ps. I've had my Ls for about 2.5 years, and I have done about 10 hours, so I really need to move on getting my hours done. And catching up with friends. After high school, you realize that meeting up with friends is not as easy as it was a year ago. In high school, when you're in school, you're in the routine of seeing your friends on a daily basis. You're forced to see each other. But when you're after high school, you have to go out of your way to see each other. Your university courses, often you don't see the same people in the same lectures, and me being in a gap year, I don't see people unless I go out and meet them. So socializing is very important, and I'm working on making sure that I don't fall behind on my social life. So other things I picked up, like I said, gap year is an opportunity to do the things that you've always wanted to do but you couldn't do. So I picked up guitar, and this is my guitar, I'm very proud of it. And it's just been so much fun learning it. It's something, but hopefully by the end of the year I can play a song or two. So I'm learning how to play guitar, that's one thing. Volunteering, getting involved in volunteer work, and hopefully at the end of the year getting more so involved in volunteer work. I'm hoping to go overseas and help out somewhere there. And learning Hindi, because I want to be able to watch Bollywood movies without the subtitles, but that's my own kind of little thing. So plans for the rest of the year. I want to travel around Australia and do extreme sports. So all those things you have on your bucket list, skydiving or scuba diving, I want to be able to tick them off by the end of this year. So this is kind of the fun side, because you want to make the most of your year. And rejoin dance. I did Bollywood dance, which I'll talk about later on in the talk. And so I want to get back into that because I had to stop it for a few years during high school. So what happens at the end of my gap year? So option A is that I do well in my UMAT and my interview. I get selected into medicine at a university in New South Wales, and I get to stay in Sydney, which is obviously the option that I'd want. Option B, though, is that I get to take up my offer at either Griffith University or optometry. So I'll contact them and I'll tell them, hi, I want to take out this. I'm most likely, if I have to take option B, I'd take Griffith University because I'm still keen on studying medicine. So I'd move to Queensland and I'd start studying there, which would also be another really different experience and a very enlightening experience. Either way, though, I walk away with a whole year full of memories and experience and maturity. So it's a win-win situation. Okay, so now on to some HSC tips. Keep in mind that the HSC is different for every student because every student is different and they study in different ways and excel in different ways. So what I'm going to tell you now is essentially what I did and what worked for me. You can pick and choose what works for you, try it out, especially if you're in year 11, now is a great time to experiment and see what works for you. If you're in year 12, stick to your strengths, that would be my advice. Try some things if it doesn't take too much time, but this is what I did anyway. So balance. Your careers advisor, your year advisor, your parents, all the adult figures around you will tell you balance. Balance is so important. During the year 12, it's so easy to be like, oh yeah, balance will come. It'll be, that's just something that's part of life. But you have to make the effort to have the balance in your life. And so what I mean by that is eating well. It's so easy to just take junk food, go to the shops and get junk food because it's accessible, it tastes good, it's going to fill you up, but it's also going to slow you down. Junk food makes you feel sluggish and it slows down brain function, so it's not the best thing to eat. Instead, go for the healthier option, go for your fruits, your vegetables. You want the nutrients that will help your brain function, especially in a year where you have to study so hard. Sleep well. So many students sacrifice sleep. Pull the all-nighter, don't do it. It's not going to help you. The thing with sleep is that once you've spent your whole day studying, it helps cement the information in. So you can think of it like this. You spend a whole day filling up a water bottle, but at night you forget to put the lid on and you leave it there. When you come back the next day, some of the water will have evaporated. So it's very similar like that when you spend the whole day studying and learning information, if you don't sleep, if you don't put that lid on top of that information, not all of it's going to stay there. So it's really important to get that sleep and let all the information sink in. So spread out your study time. Don't have it all in one chunk and don't study the one subject for hours on end. You will get tired, you'll get bored, and you won't want to study. So you might want to spread it out, do some in the morning, do some in the night. Some people are really good morning studiers, so that might work for you. For me, I would do maybe like half an hour on an English essay, and then I'd do half an hour on a maths exercise, half an hour, 1 hour, whichever works for you. Maybe then, spend another half an hour to an hour doing some science questions. So I like to mix it up so I wouldn't get bored, and I wouldn't burn out, and I wouldn't lose motivation. So talk to people. This helped me so much during my HSC. During the HSC, you're under a lot of stress, depending on your expectations. Often there's a lot going on, and so talking to people like your family, your friends, talk to people at Matrix tutors, Matrix teachers. I think I thrived off DJ's motivational speeches. I'd have listen to one and then I'd be set for the next month and I'd come back and be like, tell me more about what I should be doing. So talking to people really helps to lift off that tension. And also get involved with school. So many people think that once you get into year 12, you should stop everything and just start studying. I wouldn't recommend this for a number of reasons. So for example, that you're just studying all day, you're going to get bored, you have nothing to look forward to, you don't want to wake up the next day. When you have, you're participating in an activity like a sport that you enjoy on Friday nights, or say for example, you're starting a club or you're in a club, this helps you really kind of unwind a bit. So for me, I started a dance club at school, and so lunchtime sessions was when we'd rehearse and I'd choreograph activities, dances, and then I'd teach it to the other students in my school. And for me, that was an opportunity to just totally forget about the HSC and focus on dance. And I just feel so great afterwards. And I'd be ready to, start up again, start studying again. Also, if you're interested in studying medicine, or you want to get a scholarship into a course at university, they want to see that the student is not just academically based, but is all-rounded. Being able to tell them that, I have leadership skills, or I did this during year 12, will show them that you're capable of doing more than just studying, which is really important in university and in a course such as medicine. So being able to tell, say, a medicine interviewer that, during year 12, I did do well in my ATAR, but I also was able to, start up a dance club, and that helped me interact with others and communication skills, etc., or leadership skills that shows that you're an all-rounded person and gives you that extra lift. For example, also, say two people get an interview. One person got 98.85 and the other person got 99.75. But say the 99.85 person was a prefect or was involved with school activities, they did sport, they participated in soccer, whereas the person who got 99.75 didn't do much during their year except study. The interviewers will prefer the person who got 98.85 with the all-roundedness to the person who just got the 99.75 and didn't do anything during their year. So get involved with school, but make sure that you don't take on too much, because you don't want to stress yourself out, obviously. Just take on as much as you can and as much as you feel comfortable. If you've taken on too much, don't feel bad to drop something. I got involved in mock trial, but I had to put that down because it got too much for me. So just do as much as you can and have a balanced life. So more on to studying and what I did when I was actually, studying a subject or learning something. The syllabus. The syllabus is your HSC holy book. It essentially has everything you're going to be tested on, and nothing that you're going to be tested on is outside of the syllabus. So if you're in, if you're in Year 12 now and you haven't got the syllabus, go print out a copy from the Board of Studies website. If you're in Year 11, when you start Year 12, print out the syllabus. Also, if you're in Year 11, there's a Year 11 syllabus. I had no idea there was a Year 11 syllabus, and if I knew, I would have used that. So basically, you go on the Board of Studies website. On the left-hand column, you can select, go into the Year 12 section, the syllabus section, and there's PDF files that you can just print off. And it's really good to just have a copy of that with you, because you can tick off whether you know everything and make sure that everything, you have no loopholes in your understanding. Okay, so when you're learning something or understanding something for the first time, it's important to highlight the key areas or the areas that you're uncomfortable with or you're not 100% sure of. Highlight it, put a tab on it, put exclamation marks on it. Make sure you point out, this is what I'm not sure about. So for me, I'd have a folder that I'd take to school with all my stuff in it. And then at the end of the year, at the end of the week, I would have like this rainbow of tabs on the side of it. And I'd make sure that I went to my teachers and I clarified all my problems. It's so important to do that, because you don't want to get into an exam and the same question that you had a problem on when you were practicing is the same question that you're being tested on. So make sure you fill in the holes in your understanding. Okay, and the next step for me was practice. And practice was such a big step. This was about 70% of my studying, but this is because of the way that I learned. I'm someone who learned by doing things or by practicing questions. A lot of people can do well by just reading notes and understanding, maybe doing a few questions in their set. But for me, it was more about understanding the information, but then making sure I was able to apply it. So the difference between top students and average students is that the top students can apply their knowledge to a question, to whatever question is given to them. They're able to pick and choose from their information and put in the relevant information into their answer to get the full marks that they need. And the way you can do this is through practice. You get in the habit of being able to, mix and match your information. Particularly for a subject like maths, practice is a fundamental part of it. I'm a maths student at Matrix, and whenever I'm, giving workshops, I always tell students, make sure you're practicing. Maths is also not a subject you can cram the night before. It's something you need to build up over time. It's also a subject that you build up from, not even year 7, before year 7, because you have your foundations and it keeps getting harder and harder. You can't forget the information that you learnt before. And English essays, practice them. Practice different questions. Practice being able to mold your arguments into, to mold your body paragraphs to suit the answers, to suit the question that you're given, because the HSC markers in English don't want a pre-written essay. They want to be reading an essay that answers the question that was given in the HSC. So the next step would be making sure you have a thorough understanding and mastering application. What I mean by that is that your answers are complete, that they're full answers. So what I did, I would have a set of questions, I would do the questions, I would go back, I would mark the questions, and then afterwards I would go to my answers to the my responses to the questions, I would make them better. Even if I got the question right, I would make it a better answer. And then I would redo the questions. It sounds like a tedious process, and it was a very tedious process. But I found that it really helped make sure that I had a very complete answer. And when I say complete answer, I mean that you don't know what the criteria is when they're marking, say, for example, a science question. There's a number of things they could be looking at. They could be looking for one criteria, or they could be looking for another. You don't know what's coming in the exam. So if you have an answer that covers all possible criteria, you will get the full marks for that. So this is where practice and making sure that your answers are complete comes into place. Also, during an exam, my method was, if I can't give an explanation or I can't justify why I've written every single sentence, then there is something wrong with my response. So this applied to me particularly for science subjects. Say I was explaining esterification. If I couldn't explain why I was saying every single thing and how each thing flowed on, then there was something wrong and I had to go back and fix it up. So that was kind of like my checking during an exam when you don't have answers. Okay, so during an exam period, keep calm and carry on. I can't say it better than this. Maybe, I don't know, get a poster and put it up on your wall. In your exam period, you've studied. There isn't much you can do. If you haven't studied, don't pull the all-nighter. You need your brain to be functioning, and that one night of studying isn't going to help you that much. So it's important just to relax and be confident in yourself. When you're in an exam, don't doubt yourself, because doubt is what makes us go back and change the answers to the wrong answer. How many people have had that time where they put A as the answer and that was the correct answer, but then they doubted themselves and they put B, and then when they got the test results back, it was, oh, A, damn it, I put that answer before. So don't doubt yourself. The first answer you put is probably the right answer. Trust your instincts, because you need to trust that you've studied the right stuff. So afterwards, after the exam or your assessment period, reflect. This is something my uncle taught me, and it really helped me. Reflect on what you did right and reflect on what you did wrong. So for me, I had a number of assessments that weren't great, but I made sure I used those assessments as a learning experience for my future assessments or my final HSC exam. So for example, in a maths exam, I skipped a 4-mark question, not intentionally. I acted like I didn't even see it. I didn't write a response to it. It was a very simple 4-mark question, but that 4-mark question cost me 40 ranks in my assessment. So obviously that was a bit devastating, but I learned from that. What I did, I thought about what I did wrong. For that particular exam, the last question was on the bottom of the page, and when I was writing my answer on the writing page, I was at the bottom as well. So when I turned over, I assumed I finished the question and I kept going. So for the future assessments, I told myself I would spend at least a minute or two at the end of an exam, even if I hadn't completed every question, just making sure I'd answered every single question. During the HSC, you can't afford to just skip a 4-mark question that you could have easily answered. So that's another learning experience. For an English assessment, I didn't see the time properly, and I thought I had an extra 10 minutes. Now, if you've sat an English assessment, you know that 10 minutes is crucial. That's about like 2 paragraphs or something. So when I saw I had 10 minutes, I was like, oh, sweet. I can take my time, make sure this is good, and then the teacher would say, pens down. I had like a mini heart attack just then. Not then, but in the exam. So I learned from that, because now for every other assessment after that, I checked the time about like 5 times. I did the calculations myself and made sure that I knew that I planned out my time properly. So it's these kind of errors or hiccups that you can learn from and make sure you do well in your future assessments. And remember that your final assessment is 50% of your HSC mark. The final board exam is what I'm saying. It's so important. So many people after their trials, relax too much. It's important to relax a bit, because good job, you've got past your trials. But you've got to make sure that you keep studying, keep working on everything, excel, master everything, because your final assessments are so important. But don't stress out too much because of the one assessment. It's very important. Okay, so my average school day. This average school day would be not right before exams, about midterm when you're learning. It's also the ideal school day. So 7 a.m. I'd wake up and I'd get ready for school. I wasn't really the morning person. I tried many times to wake up earlier and study, but it just never really worked. I'd just go back to bed. But if you're a morning person, definitely make the most of that. Wake up in the morning and study then when your brain is fresh. 8:55 to 3:20 a.m. I had school. 4 p.m. I'd get home, I'd freshen up, I'd eat something. And then 4:30 to 5, I'd have a power nap. Now, a power nap is something that's a bit iffy because it doesn't always work for a lot of people. I spoke to so many people during my HSC and be like, do you guys take power naps? And they'd be like, how do you take a power nap without sleeping for 3 hours? So for me, I was lucky because I had the self-control to wake up after half an hour. But a lot of people can't wake up after half an hour and they just sleep for 3 hours, which isn't ideal because you need to obviously study. So this half an hour time span is the right time, is a good time span because you don't get into deep sleep yet, so you don't wake up feeling groggy, you wake up feeling refreshed. I found that this power nap, instead of studying in that half an hour, it meant that I could think efficiently and study efficiently for the next few hours of study. So that really helped me. But obviously this is something that you might want to try, but it might not work for you. Keep in mind it doesn't work for a lot of people. So from 5 to 7 I'd study, not one subject, a number of subjects. So I'd mix it up, I'd do a bit of English, do a bit of maths, do a bit of science, chemistry, and then I'd have dinner at around 7. And I wouldn't eat at my table. A lot of people eat at the table. For me, I'd make the most of dinner. I'd get up, I'd go outside into the lounge room or the dining room, and I'd eat, I'd talk to my family. I'd maybe watch a bit of TV in my dinner time, but don't let that TV go on for like another 2 hours. It was so tempting to just sit there and watch Castle and watch the rest of the episodes or something. So take the time or dinner time to actually get out of your room and just refresh and unwind a bit. 7:30 to 10:30 I'd study a bit more, and obviously mixing up the subjects again. And then by 11 I'd aim to go to bed. So you can see from 11 to 7, that's about 8 hours of sleep. And that was sufficient to keep me going for the next day. You might be looking at this and going, wow, 5 hours, that seems intense. Keep in mind this is my ideal day as I planned it, but there's obviously some time lost to a bit of procrastination or just taking the time to take one book out, put the other book away. So this is your ideal day. So good luck, and remember that there's more than one way of getting into the course you want. If you want to read more about this, I wrote an article, the written version of my presentation is on the Matrix blog. There's also the UAC website that tells you a lot about deferring and taking a gap year. And for the syllabus and HSC materials, there's the Board of Studies website, BOARD, Board of Studies website. And if you want notes or resources, there's also the other Board of Studies, which is BORED, which has a lot of resources. So those are a few websites you might want to look up. So are there any questions? So poor UMAT is probably below 80 percentile, I'd consider a poor UMAT. Or it depends on your ATAR combination obviously as well. Everything's online. So QTAC, there's also if you want to apply for different states, you go to each state's version of our UAC. You apply online, there's also a registration fee, and then you do it through their website. So you have to do it for every different state. I actually only applied for Queensland, but this year I'm going to apply for as many as I can because I think it's something that I wish I did before. I wish I applied to Melbourne and Adelaide, but this year I will. So yeah, I recommend if you're very interested in studying medicine, apply to as many as you can. If you're willing to go into state, just do it. I've heard that the GAMSAT is an exam that's a lot, I wouldn't say easier, but it has material you can study for more because I think it's more along advanced science subjects, some of those topics. So you can study for that a bit more, especially because you have the written component. But UMAT you can study for UMAT, but it's a lot more skills based than GAMSAT is. Thank you for listening.